Do you know how hard it is to find a job in this industry and to find talent? It's not easy because places like LinkedIn and Indeed, they're just too general. No one's ever had an industry vertical job board like we have for the investment management industry. Across all job titles, that is Dakota Talent. Of course, we're focused on sales, marketing, distribution, but if you want a job as an analyst at a private credit firm, private equity, you can post a job here. If you want an internship, if you want a job first year out of college, you can all post here. You can even create premier listings within Dakota Talent. So we just wanted to welcome you. As you probably know, if this is your first time to Dakota, we're a fundraising organization. We've been raising money since 2006. We've raised over $25 billion. We know the industry. We've also created an industry-leading database of over 1,000 firms and 4,000 fundraisers that use our data to do cold outreach. So we've created this really wonderful community, and we're bringing the community together to be matchmakers, to bring job seekers, opportunities, as well as employers who want talent. So please use the job board. It's really fantastic. It's easy to use. It's very easy to post a job, post a premier listing, and also to create a profile for yourself and post a resume. So have fun, enjoy Dakota Talent. What is up, everybody? Gui Costin, founder, CEO of Dakota, and I wanted to talk to you about a new Rainmaker podcast, and it's going to be interviewing heads of sales, heads of distribution, asking them all sorts of questions around how they run their sales organization, really digging into their sales processes, how they've set it up, philosophically, how they've literally built the business. So you can hear, as a salesperson, our audience can hear how the best people in the business are running their sales organization. So if you have an interest in being interviewed, or if you want to recommend someone at your company to be on the show, simply email me at guy@dakotalive.com. And if you just want to register on our website where you can sign up to get alerts when we release the newest episodes, simply go to dakota.com and we'll send you emails every time we release a new interview. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the latest edition of Rainmaker Live, where we go through our Dakota Way sales training. So Tim, one thing that was very sort of thematic today is great young salesperson joins the team, and I just wanted to talk about what I thought she needed to do to really kick things off, you know what I mean, and just be consistent on a daily basis. We're going to get into the program and go through the 4 pillars of the Dakota Way, starting on focus on what matters most. But I just want to touch on immediately kind of the thing that I really felt that needs to be done on a daily basis, because I think what the Dakota Way, the whole structure of the Dakota Way for both the software team and the investment sales team is consistency, day in and day out. And one of your favorite line is about time. Time flies.
Yes.
You say it all the time?
Yes.
You want to talk about what that means and why? That consistency on a daily basis. It's why we have our 740, our check-in. It's why the BDRs go through what they do. It's in their best interest. But you want to talk about time flies?
Yeah. So, right. We are always out there traveling, doing meetings, doing calls, right? And I always think about it. I go to Chicago early May. You look back in your CRM and it's now August and you're like, whoa, it's been almost 3 months. It felt like I was just with these people, right? So time does fly. So there's a lot of tools that we have in place from a sales structure standpoint that help us, right, remind ourselves. But again, it's all
get distracted.
Exactly.
Right. And so if you're not applying on a daily basis, sort of hour by hour, the things that matter most, and we're going to get into it, but we're sort of kicking it off with something that's very thematic to me, based upon we have some, people that just joined our team, and I believe success will absolutely happen. And the advice was I took 2 components from the Dakota Way and simply said 2 things that I think will end up having you have marvelous success if applied daily. And remember, just like all the BDRs know this, why they have to come in and go through what their plan for is the day and those cities they're scheduling for, is because if you don't do that every single day, time flies. Next thing you know, you're a month in. Oh, well, this happened, I couldn't get this done. And then you end up with nothing, right? And then Forrest Smith doesn't eat because his BDRs didn't set him up any meetings, and then they didn't get paid their $100 for each first timer and re-engage. So the advice was this, and then we'll dig into the Dakota Way. Number 1, the goal is to find, this is on the investment sales, the goal is to find one new relationship a day. Connect with someone that's a qualified buyer that you've now connected with, just one a day. You're not always going to get it, but that should be the focus. And do that every single day, generally by sending 20 emails to 30 emails a day in terms of city scheduling. Always have 5 cities on the books, even if you are just covering New York City. Secondly, my recommendation is become a master messenger and master the spruce story. And that requires a lot of consistency, discipline, studying what we're going to go through. And in about 90 days, if applied, you're going to become an expert at spruce. And as I said, the goal is not to become an expert at spruce. The goal is to become an expert at spruce, so then you have the confidence and the know-how to then take another story and make it exactly how you have spruce. So you're really training yourself how to tell an investment story by mastering one. So Tim, maybe you could talk about what about that in terms of mastering these stories, like what your process is. Because I do believe being a master messenger is everything.
Yeah, and everyone has their own style around telling a story, right? You tell an investment pitch a little different than I do, right? But it's taking in the information from the portfolio managers, from the team, and distilling it down for me personally to things that I can really understand and regurgitate in a meeting. And I think also importantly is, and we touch on this, is hitting the key facts up front and first and foremost is really crucial, right? And centering the conversation, right, which we get into in Rainmaker. So that's a big component of the...
And really let's just make sure we unpack what that... So what I'm encouraging everybody to do, and I have for years and years and years, is, comments are great. Give me the key takeaway. The key takeaway is 2 things. One, you want to make sure that you're telling them what they want to hear, right? So they can understand what you're going to be saying and why. That's number 1. And number 2, in investment sales, you never sell to the end buyer, right? In software sales, you could easily sell to the end buyer. In investment sales, you don't. So you need to be an amazing storyteller because you're doing the grapevine thing. So if they can't repeat your story and why it's so good, and we were touching on sort of the origin story of Spruce and S3, became masters at making small loans between $1 and $20 million to apartment developers. It takes the same amount of time to make a $10 million loan as it does a $300 million loan, okay? And so it's not a great business. And so they had to develop a capability to do it at scale. Mm-hmm. They became the best in the business at making small construction loans to multifamily developers, which are apartment developers. I mean, that's an origin story. It's easy to remember.
Yeah.
Right? You could go tell that story in 5 seconds to somebody. Well, why is that so significant? Well, because they'd become so good and efficient because they ended up doing 600 loans between 1 and 20 million with not one default, right? So let's get into it. But that was really the 2 pieces of advice that I felt would hold somebody in great stead with complete focus and didn't have to think much about what they should be doing. Complete focus. Let's find one new contact every single day that's now a qualified buyer. It's not always going to happen, but try. And then 2, practice and come up and master that spruce pitch. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
All right, we'll do this about 15 minutes. Knock out the Dakota Way, which is our Rainmaker sales training. This works for both investment sales and software sales. And for those of you listening, you might be wondering, it's like, who are you talking to? Well, today we just invited the whole company to join. And so we're actually pitching our entire company on the sales training. So we're going to start off, Tim, with the key umbrella concept at Dakota. Basically, the number 1 Dakota-ism is focus on what matters most. Said it a little bit differently, focus on what you can control, but focus on what matters most. You just want to unpack that for 30 seconds?
Really, again, focusing on what matters most, focusing on what you can control, right? There's a lot that goes into it. But I think the number 1, right, is taking your investment strategy and calling on people that buy what you sell, right? You can control that. Number 2 is, and we'll get into this, is the messaging, what you say, the words that you use in a meeting. But again, also is your time, right? You can control your time. Your comment around the 1 person a day, 1 new connection, or the city scheduling, right? That is purpose, right?
Totally within your control.
Yeah.
Right. And remember, we all can get distracted. The problem is, if you're not focused on what matters most, time flies and you're also 90 days and you have 2 contacts, you haven't been practicing, and right, you can just accelerate your growth so much more. It's why the BDRs, if I'm using this as an example, and the AEs have accelerated so quickly because they're focused on what matters most, and it's sending emails and not getting emails back is not fun. It's emotionally, it's rejection. I have more compassion than anybody for that situation. But if you can do it consistently, you get outsized returns and outsized growth in your career.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, so every division in our company across the board, and they all know it, right? If you take our data team, focus what matters most, right? That's why we have a 14-point checklist every day at 8:15 with the team. So it applies to everything. So the Dakota Way is divided into 4 components that is a circle, and it's pillar 1, 2, 3, and 4, and they just repeat themselves. So first off, it is know who to call on. So establishing your TAM and attacking your TAM. 2, when you actually get the meetings, you have to become a master messenger. And we're going to walk through what you do in those meetings. 3, I always leave this out because this is more of a business thing. Really, the first pillar, is creating alignment with your client. In our case, it's a third-party marketer or your boss. So that's the first pillar, is having a sales plan with a true cadence of reporting progress against the plan. 2 is know who to call on, establishing your TAM, and then how you attack that TAM. 3 is becoming a master messenger. Then 4 is a killer follow-up system, which really translates into using a CRM to enter your information in so you can follow up and track your progress very easily using past activity reports to create sales triggers. That's the one area where a salesperson can 10x their productivity almost overnight. Again, why time flies, right?
Yep.
So let's dig into creating alignment, the sales plan. Osh loves this. Osh really brought this up as the number one thing. Because if you don't have alignment with your boss and your boss isn't connected to what you're doing, guess what? It's going to go up in flames and you'll lose your job after 18 to 24 months. So talk about the sales plan and creating alignment.
Yeah, I mean, the sales plan, I liken this to an investment process, right? It's no different than a sales process, right? So internally, having alignment and buy-in from your partners, especially portfolio managers, right? Because they have lofty goals of their own strategy, but then reality checks in of where you're spending your time, tailwinds, headwinds, and your sales plan outlines all of this. And when you document this down and then you get buy-in and approval, then it's pure execution mode. But importantly, it is getting that buy-in, documenting a sales plan, and then additionally, and this kind of goes into the CRM component on the end and why a CRM is so powerful, is reporting internally, or in our case to our partners, your activity and your pipeline on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, right? So they never question, meaning the PMs never question what you are doing as a salesperson.
And did you mention just reporting, setting up a regular cadence to report progress against the plan?
Weekly, bi-weekly, yeah.
And so if you're listening to this and you're working for kind of a small distribution team raising capital, the goal is to act like a big company, even though you're small. Put the best practices in place day one, which is making sure you're sitting down. We sit down with Edgewood, Hamlin, Spyglass, Hardman every single week and go through the pipeline and the plan. We never miss it. They are always in the loop on how we're doing against the plan, and including Spruce. Those are the managers that we work with. So let's get into the TAM. So pillar number 2 is know who to call on, which is establishing who buys what you sell. For instance, RAs predominantly use mutual funds and separate accounts and ETFs, mostly mutual funds, to create portfolios for their clients. If you end up having a mutual fund, that's your target market, right? And then your goal is to go attack that target market using something we call city scheduling. So you always have 5 cities on the books at any given time, 9, 11, 1, 3, and 4:30. And you're trying to book meetings with an email with a subject line that says meeting request, date and time. You design your one-liner, that describes your firm, who you are, and what you do. And we have oodles of examples of that. And then 3, you always have to have a clear call to action. Can you meet May 26th at 3 o'clock? So you need a clear call to action. So that's know who to call on. Just being very clear about who your target market is. And our goal is to get in front of that target market using city scheduling and always sending 20 to 30 emails a day to book those meetings. Just be consistent about it. It works like a charm, right, Tim? I mean, it's proven to work. Third thing is become a master messenger, okay? And Tim, there's a lot to unpack here, but to keep it simple, right? How about we talk about the opening and breaking someone's nose and getting their attention?
It's really, we say breaking their nose, punch them in the face, but really when you're in the meeting, you're sitting down, you exchange courtesies, don't talk about the weather because it doesn't matter, right? It's centering the conversation. Edgewood Management is a 22 stock concentrated large cap growth manager. Founded in 1974, 100% employee owned, managed $38 billion in one single strategy, right? So now the analyst knows it's U.S. large cap growth, the assets under management, 100% employee owned, and where they're based. So now we're centering the conversation.
And they know what they should be listening for. And
Exactly.
You can control those 2 minutes. You can control the 15 to 20 questions that buyer has in their mind. And now you can get into Q&A. The middle part of this should be the easiest. It's Q&A.
Yeah.
And generally, you're just going through investment philosophy, process, risk controls, portfolio construction, right? And you're trying to make it very easy to understand.
I would say just one comment. In a sales meeting with portfolio managers, as we all know, they can get very passionate. Sometimes they don't actually answer the question asked of them. So making sure to train them up that they do. But also, I would recommend prior to the meeting to have a little signal with the PM.
Yeah.
If they're rambling or going on too long and not answering the question right before the meeting, like you as a salesperson need to control and run that meeting, right? And so getting back to the purpose of the meeting is so the allocator has a true understanding of what you do.
Well, that's the ball of clay theory, right? The ball of clay theory is there's a round ball of clay in between you and the allocator. The PM's next to you, and the allocator's across from you. The allocator is a professional buyer of clay sculptures, right? Not a sculptor, okay? So the question is, who's going to do the sculpting? Are you going to leave it up to the allocator and be the dog and you the tail, or are you going to run the meeting? The best investment salespeople know how to be the puppeteer, the choreographer, whatever you want to call it, and run the meeting. It takes preparation before with the PM because you want to make sure you're on the same page when you're going to call them down from going on too long and how the interaction is going to occur. The best investment salespeople run the meeting. So the first part is, let's get the 2 minutes out of the way. Now we know what the allocator should be listening for. Now let's kick it into Q&A and really let them now lead the conversation. Short answer first to the PM. Short answer first every time. Let them ask more questions. Once you complete that, okay, now we're going to get to the fun part. What most investment salespeople don't do, 99.9, is ask these 2 questions. As the meeting concludes, we'll use large cap growth as the example. We look at the allocator and say, does this look like a strategy that would fit in your clients' portfolios? If they say no, you know what the follow-up is. Put them on your email list and move on. If they say yes, then you say, hey, do you mind if I ask, do you anticipate doing a search in the next 12 months in large cap growth? If they say no, you know what the follow-up is. Put them on the email list. If they say yes, they say, well, what are the next steps that we need to take, okay, to more familiarize you with the investment strategy? Do we need to get you in front of more PMs? Do you need a DDQ? Do you need an on-site? You know, what is it? And then you have your marching orders. Here's what I'll tell you. Most people wait to the walk out the door, send a little follow-up email thanking them, appreciate your time and all that good stuff, send all the attachments, and then they get ghosted. Why? Because they thought it was a great meeting, which is a term banned at Dakota. That doesn't help anyone at all, right? You need to get the follow-up in the meeting, right, Tim?
Exactly.
Follow-up has to happen in the meeting. Our fourth pillar, which is creating a killer follow-up system. Anybody at Dakota already knows they use the CRM like it's oxygen, right? So the reason the CRM is so important, and that's your killer follow-up system, is because you need to do 2 things. You need to get, 1, all the meetings that you've scheduled into your CRM so you can rapidly run past activity reports to review who you've met with to trigger sales actions. If you're good at the front end, this is why you can see it's a circle. If you're good at the city scheduling and sending the emails and booking meetings, you're going to do a lot of meetings. The bad news is you're going to do a lot of meetings, and no one can follow up and be that accurate and have it all in their brain. You need a CRM to help manage that. Tim, talk about how powerful it's been for you and being able to track all the information over 12 years.
Yeah, massively, right? You touched on the end. Time flies, right? You travel, and then 4 months later, it's like, wow, I need to follow this account or get back to that city. But also, I think the key component is it's sales triggers, right? It reminds you on a daily basis to follow up with people, look at past activity reports, not only reporting internally to your PMs and partners, but also to yourself.
And you would live good investment salespeople, good salespeople in general, including all of our AEs on the other side, all our investment salespeople. They live in 2 reports, basically. They're past activity reports to trigger sales actions, then they live in their pipelines. So when you think about what Tim said, if you tied pillar number 4 back to pillar number 1, which is where you're doing your business plan and your sales plan, and then what your cadence is for meeting progress against the plan. It's going to be the opportunity report that you create in your CRM that you're going to press the link that shows you your opportunity report. And in that opportunity report, it's going to have all the opportunities that you're going to review with your boss and with custom fields that I call current status and next step, right, are critical. So that is your killer follow-up system. It's actually quite simple of how we're utilizing this. It's just to house the meetings that you've scheduled and completed, notes from those meetings, and then pipeline reports. But if you do that, you're always able to, with one click, go in and see, right, exactly what you should be looking at to then trigger actions. And we've used it to raise over $30 billion. So I'm telling you, the process works really, really well. So with that, Tim, is there one or two questions anybody want to, before we conclude? Can I open up to Q&A?
At Dakota, we talk a lot about having a killer follow-up. I would love to know what that means to you. I mean, I think follow-up, the timeline can mean different things to different people. Like in software, I've always been trained, you don't let 2 days go by without following up with your contact or prospective client. How do you define killer follow-up?
You definitely, like you do it in the meeting, right? You let them tell you if there's any opportunity in the near term. So the follow-up in investment sales has to happen in the meeting because it's a long sales process where software is much shorter on a relative basis. So it has to happen in the meeting and you have to ask them for guidance. Like I just went through, right? Would this ever fit in your portfolio? Eliza, we would never invest ever with an apartment lender. Okay, there's no follow-up, right? So you really have to have the vulnerability, and it's hard to actually just ask the hard question in the meeting. And then if they say yes, then you need a timeline. Hey, we're having a quarterly closes. What could you make the 9:30 close, the 12:31? Which one would you be able to make? And if so, what do we need to do between now and then to get you more comfortable with a strategy? And so you're trying to get the quick no. Investment sales is less about winning and much more about getting the quick no by asking really targeted questions, obviously in a polite way.
I think that it's so critical to ask those questions during the call. I guess more after the fact when, let's say you get all the answers you want, you're following up and then they go cold. Does that follow-up system look different as it relates to following up with an allocator versus following up with someone on the software side?
Oh yeah, it looks much different. I think Forey will tell you that if you're not following up within 24 hours, you've lost them. And then that's not even close to the case, right? You're going to send a thank you note, obviously a thank you email, but you will already know the status of your relationship with that due diligence analyst before you leave the meeting, right? Because you're going to ask them, is this of interest to you or not? If it's not, I'm fine. And you're not going to quite say it like that. So yeah, the best, find that out in the meeting. The worst, which is 99.9% of people in terms of asking the tough question, wait to be ghosted. Because if you don't get those answers, then you start following up. You're like, wow, I thought we had this great interaction. You seem so interested, but they don't want to say no in an email to you, so they just don't respond.
Yeah. Also, Eliza, to Guy's point, on the investment sales side, we're not selling to the end buyer. So there's no way that you can assume the allocator absorbed everything that you covered on a 30, 45-minute, hour-long call. So not only getting those answers...
And everything has to be approved by an investment committee.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of work to be done.
So getting those answers on those two tough questions is critical, but then your follow-up is effectively recapping the meeting, right? And basically doing the work for them, right? Here are the post-meeting notes. Here's everything we touched on. Here are the questions you asked. Here are the answers to those. Because again, you're helping them do their job and create that write-up, internal write-up that they need to do for their investment committee.
Yeah. And those are awesome questions.
Asking the question, what do you need to make sure you're well positioned to recommend this strategy internally? And then following up with all of those materials.
Exactly.
Yeah. And they'll tell you exactly what, if you ask them that question, they'll tell you exactly what they need. And offline, we know Chris Leroy can give us a ton of advice on that as well. So I'm afraid we have to wrap it, Tim. So everyone, cannot thank you enough for joining. Just a very rapid recap. So as you know, the Rainmaker is all about the Dakota way, our way of selling. Number one, it's creating a sales plan to create alignment. 2, it's knowing who to call on by creating your TAM and going after that TAM through city scheduling. It's 3, about becoming a master messenger and opening the meeting in the first 2 minutes, answering all the questions. Secondly, getting into Q&A. 3rd, asking the 2 tough questions to close out the meeting. Then 4th, creating the killer follow-up system using your CRM, getting all the meetings you've scheduled, the notes, creating pipelines, running past activity reports to trigger sales action. So, Tim, thanks so much for joining.
Thank you.
Me, I appreciate you, my man. Thanks for everyone, and we'll see you on the next Rainmaker Live.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining Rainmaker Live. Hopefully you enjoyed the content. As you know, we have a whole program that's dedicated to training both salespeople and sales leaders, okay? How to lead teams and how to follow the principles that we have followed to raise over $25 billion. If you have an interest in bringing me in to meet with your team and go through the Rainmaker curriculum, I would love to do it. Simply email me at guy@dakota.com.